As a young person today, it's hard to understand environmental issues and navigate how to feel about them. But what we have to do is talk about them. That's why Earth Rangers, ER Teens, and Kids Help Phone's National Youth Council came together to create this special mini-series for the Big Melt. We're here to talk about things that matter to us and help you start conversations with the people around you too.
My name is Anjana.
My name's Ida.
And I'm Zara.
And today we're exploring what misinformation is and how it ties into the broader challenge of climate anxiety.
Thanks for tuning in.
Now, recently, I came across a headline that really stuck with me. It talked about how anti-climate movements are becoming more visible on social media, spreading misinformation that denies or downplays the realities of climate change. I found it to be a really troubling trend that's hard to overlook. Seeing messages denying climate change on social media really makes me feel uncertain or worried about the future. How does it make you both feel?
Well, it makes me wonder about what other kinds of media is being falsified or dramatized and how that impacts our lives.
I agree, and it's definitely concerning to think about when trying to find facts about climate change and its effects on us.
For people, especially young people, who care deeply about the environment, misinformation can feel incredibly discouraging and can contribute to a growing sense of anxiety, that overwhelming worry about the future of our planet. So without further ado, let's get into today's topic.
So we talked a little about information falsely denying the reality of climate change on social media, but what is misinformation?
So, misinformation refers to false, misleading, or inaccurate information that's shared without the intention to deceive. So this is very different from disinformation, which is deliberately false info that is designed to mislead people. Now, there's a narrative that climate change is a natural cycle and not at all influenced by human activity, or that the science around climate change is uncertain and debated. These narratives reduce the urgency among the public and policymakers to address these issues. It makes people think that they don't need to act, especially if it's a natural issue. Spreading false solutions is also a major problem, even though it's rooted from a good place. Overstating the effectiveness of individual actions like recycling or using reusable straws can minimize the role of systemic changes such as policy reform and corporate responsibility. This shifts focus away from necessary large-scale solutions and delays meaningful climate action.
Yeah, definitely. And we can see how that ties into climate change through the results of misinformation. So kind of like a domino effect, if you guys get what I mean?
Exactly. I've seen several posts proliferate on social media claiming that climate change is not caused by humans, as Ida mentioned, when we know that human activities like burning fossil fuels have been a main driver of climate change since the 19th century. You also mentioned misinformation shielding corporate responsibility, Ida. Another example is greenwashing, which for those who might not know is when companies present themselves as environmentally friendly without actually following through on those claims. A good example is the fashion industry. Some brands will market their sustainable clothing lines with terms like eco-friendly or conscious, while continuing to rely on wasteful production methods or exploitative labor practices. It's misleading, and it can make people really question whether meaningful change is even possible in such a massive industry.
And on the other hand, climate alarmism, where climate change issues are presented in a way that emphasizes worst-case scenarios, can often incite fear and uncertainty, and sometimes oversimplify the issue without proper context. So, this can also contribute to misinformation, and for many people, feelings of hopelessness.
You raise a really important concern, Zara, about those feelings that a lot of us share when we think about climate denial or alarmism, as we've now learned about. And as we all shared earlier, those feelings of uncertainty, stress, and anxiety. Whether you're learning about climate change from peers or social media, or facing environmental crises in your daily life, eco-anxiety or the worry or distress that you might experience about the future of the planet due to climate change affects so many individuals.
I know one way that eco-anxiety affects young people, specifically in the age of social media, is through fear-mongering and feeling guilty about small actions, like using disposable plastic or even driving a car. Or, for example, eating non-sustainable foods even when alternatives aren't feasible or affordable for them. You might think that you're contributing to the problem, and people who are already dealing with other kinds of anxiety and stressors might really struggle with this.
Right, and 3 out of 4 Canadians feel that climate change has negatively impacted their mental health, while 1/3 of Canadians feel hopeless about stopping it and making a lasting change. It's definitely an issue that will continue to affect more and more people.
As you've both mentioned, eco-anxiety can affect so many of us in different ways, and it can also take on different forms. Some of these include eco-paralysis, which is feeling like there is nothing you can do to help or make a difference. Ecological grief is another form, which is a reaction to environmental loss and changes to landscapes that hold importance to nature and different groups. And finally, eco-distress, which is a broader emotional reaction to climate change. Signs of eco-anxiety may also include frequent thoughts about the climate, guilt, anger towards inaction, existential dread, or physical effects like trouble sleeping and difficulty concentrating. These feelings, though challenging, highlight a deep connection to the environment and the need for collective action.
After all that, I think it's really important to know what we can do to manage this eco-anxiety. Personally, I think that we need to find the balance between staying informed and doom scrolling. So I feel that firstly, it's definitely crucial to prioritize your mental health and focus on yourself and what you can control before delving further into uncertainty. But that's just a starting point.
I think taking breaks from social media when needed is really important to ground ourselves and remember that the internet isn't real life. We're not all influencers who can afford certain amenities, especially during times where you might be more vulnerable to feeling guilt or anxiety, like before bed or right in the morning. Dedicate that time to maybe 30 minutes of reading, journaling, practicing self-care like yoga or meditation, or even just something as small as taking a shower or watching a low-stakes movie or show, like Friends or something. I also think that educating yourself is really important. So learn about environmental issues from credible, balanced sources to gain a realistic understanding of what's actually going on, instead of feeding into alarmist content that fuels anxiety. Staying informed can be really helpful for staying grounded for when or if you do come into contact with misinformation.
Those are some really great points and tips, Ida, and some that I actually apply in my own life as well. Some other steps that I find helpful are to really identify and understand my feelings about climate change and the environment. When I feel myself starting to get nervous or stressed, I try to identify if the source of those feelings might be from not being informed enough about the context of recent environmental crises and topics, or whether they may be from consuming too much alarmist media or misinformation while doom scrolling on various social media platforms. So like Ida mentioned, I try to do my own research on topics from credible sources, and then to limit the amount of time I'm spending online. And journaling can definitely help in jotting down my feelings and then also brainstorming how I can address these feelings, stay engaged on environmental issues, and then personal actions that I can take in my daily life to combat climate change and these feelings of eco-anxiety all at once.
Earth Rangers has some great educational resources like this podcast and articles for young people to learn more about the environment and steps they can take to make a difference as climate advocates.
In addition, as we have discussed a lot about feelings and emotions when it comes to climate change and the environment, Kids Help Phone is an e-mental health resource open 24/7 that you can always reach out to give your feelings a place to go to.
You can find online support on the Kids Help Phone website, call a Kids Help Phone counselor at 1-800-668-6868, or text CONNECT to 686868 to receive support now. And you can also find peer support on topics such as eco-anxiety on the peer-to-peer platform on the Kids Help Phone website.
Well, that's it from us at Earth Rangers
and Kids Help Phone.
We hope you've learned more about how to tackle misinformation and feelings of eco-anxiety, Earth Rangers, and keep on ranging.
wherever you go, whatever they get into. From chill time to everyday adventures, protect your dog from parasites with Credelio Quattro. For full safety information, side effects, and warnings, visit CredeliaQuattroLabel.com. Consult your vet or call 1-888-545-5973. Ask your vet for Credelio Quattro and visit QuattroDog.com.